Okay. I just did a big long tirade about the math of online selling. And obviously for me, the math is Etsy because I don't sell anywhere else. I'm a big Etsy fangirl. And, over time you'll know, I'll teach you why and how and whatever. So the math. Figuring out the math is vital to your business. It is that simple. Now, even if you are only into Etsy to make enough money back to cover the cost of the materials that you need for your next project. That's how I got started. I got started on Etsy making bags for my wife, and the way I had to buy my fabric, buying enough material for one bag for her, because you have to buy it in strips. I would get a big enough piece for her, but I have enough left over to make a second bag. I said, what am I going to do with this extra fabric? She said, let's set you up with a shop, and the rest is history. Online selling has taken off in a big way. And I mean, it's huge. There's like over 90 million people on Etsy buying stuff. There's 7.5 million people on Etsy selling stuff. So it's huge. And that's just Etsy. I have a general idea of what's going on for a lot of other platforms. I pay attention to who's doing what, just because, someday I may decide I want to go onto a different platform. I don't know what I'm going to do. But anyway, the math matters. The problem is the math does not exist in a one-size-fits-all format. If I were just one for me, one for the internet, one for me, one for the internet, I wouldn't care. I would just be looking for enough to get back enough for the next project. My needs are different, therefore what I need to track in terms of pricing is different. Some things don't change, and I'll try and address as much of that as I can. So keep in mind, this is not going to be a do this, do this, do this. This is going to be a listen to me babble, take notes, use the information that will work for what you're doing, and then sit down, do the math. The math is not difficult, but the math is tedious. It's boring. Math is boring for most people. I like math. Well, I don't know. I like this math. Anyway, so the math is actually really simple, and it's just a matter of going through it. If you plan on selling on Etsy, especially if you do have income goals, then it is really, really important that whether you like it or not, you sit down and sort out these numbers. If you're not into math, get a friend that you trust to help you. This is important. This is really important because I have encountered, I'm on the social medias all the time. And when you go into the social medias, this is actually a reasonable segue. I'm on the social medias. People are coming into Facebook groups. I'm mostly in the Facebook groups I have my own group, that sort of thing. People come in, and of the 7.5 million people that are selling on Etsy, the people that go into these groups are the people that are looking for help, need information, blah, blah, blah. So you kind of see the biggest problems, the biggest, cautionary tales. You kind of see it all, right? Because if you have a solid, stable shop that's doing what you want it to do, you've got no reason. I'm already on. I just wanted something to do while I was having my own morning coffee, so I started getting into these groups. And when I realized that my shop was growing, it's like, wow, I need to really sort this stuff out. This is actually growing. It's turning into something, right? Which is what happened. I actually started my shop like 8 months before Lisa started her channel. My wife has a tarot channel. I started my shop 8 months before that. So yeah, I was already growing on my own. And then when she started her channel, it did get me extra attention. I'm not going to lie. It got me extra attention in the community. So I started growing faster. And it's like, I really need to make sure I'm doing this right. So I started getting into all the groups. And then I very quickly started giving advice. And I think I'm fucking awesome at giving advice, which is why I'm here. So anyway, there is no one-size-fits-all mathematical formula to tell you how to price your products for the best results for you, because everybody is selling everything from basic supplies, antiques, handmade items, print-on-demand items. That is like if you've designed a T-shirt, say a T-shirt, a mug, whatever. As long as you've designed it, you can outsource the production and have somebody else make it, and you just take your profit from there. So one size does not fit all when sorting out the math. So we're going to talk generically about each different thing. Not generically. I'll give you the information you need to do your own math. I just can't go, here's a sheet, do the math. I can't do that. It doesn't exist that. This is why sorting out the math is such a nightmare for so many people, especially people people don't math, and there's nothing wrong with that. What is wrong is that people who don't math do the whole, I don't need your effing help, I'll do my own math, and then they get themselves in trouble. I'm not calling people stupid. I'm saying that people who are not good at something get a little bit stuck in their own head about reaching out to somebody who is. So number one rule, if you're not good with the math, if you're not good with the numbers, get a friend, sit them down, make them watch this video with you and say, this is what I need you to do. Get the help that you need, because honestly, this is real. This is not just some online game you're playing. It's real world money, and for some of you, it's your livelihood. So do the math and leave your ego at the door and get it done right. Okay. So what are we? I'm looking at my own personal spreadsheet, and you guys may have other things that you think are important to calculate. So if I miss something, then take your own notes, whatever. So what I'm just gonna get right into it. I've already been babbling for 6 minutes. So what we're gonna talk about first is your materials costs. You need to know what it's costing you to make each and every product, period. So for me, I sew. So for me, I've got a chart over there that says if I am making this product, I need and I do not do it per, I've broken it down per item, but to break it down per item, sometimes you need to do the bigger picture. So it's like, I know that if I am making a specific size of bag, I need exactly a piece of fabric that's this big by this big. And I know that a yard of fabric, okay, I know that on average, if I have a yard of fabric, I can make 8 drawstring bags, eight regular sized bags. So I know that if a yard of fabric costs me $8, that one bag costs me $1, because an $8 piece of fabric divided by 8 items is 1, right? So you do the math. I also know, but I've also started, and this is where it gets convoluted, my material costs vary. Sometimes I'll catch a sale and get a good deal on something. Sometimes I'm paying through the frickin' nose. If I'm paying on average $40 per, if I were to only be buying the really, really high-end luxury fabrics, which I try to when I can, but whenever I slip in a high-end fabric into the mix at $40 a yard, well, that's now 8 times 5 is 40. So 40 divided by 8 is 5, which means $5 per item to make it. So what I do is how much did I spend on fabric? How much per yard? I calculated an average is what I did. It's like, okay, in the last month, I spent this much money on fabric. So I spent $100 on fabric, and I bought my fabric in 1 meter pieces. For $100, I got 10 yards of fabric. So on average, I spent $10 a yard, even though I might have got 3 for 8, 2 for 10, 1 for 9. I figured out the average. Because generally speaking, when you have regular steady sales, you will have an average. So if your materials have a range, figure out your average. If they don't, then it's fine. If fabric cost $8 a yard, no matter what you're buying, when you're buying it, or where you're buying it, because it was just static across the entire industry, 8 divided by the number of items that I can get from a yard of fabric, and do that for every item. I've got some items that I can get 10. I've got some items that I can only get 6. I've got some things I sell that I can only get 2. Do the math. How much is it costing per materials per item that you sell? Know that number. Use a chart, do whatever you got to do. And again, the more you're selling, you may have to break it up into chunks. I broke mine up into drawstring bags, wrap bags, pocket pouches. For those who are familiar with what I'm selling, anyway, I broke it up per thing. So that way, because you also, 2 things that you're going to do. You're going to calculate how much does it cost to produce your item, and then you're going to calculate how much should I really be selling my item for? What makes sense? What doesn't make sense? This is a whole thing. Okay. So your materials cost, you need to average this out. You need to average this either, like I said, average or don't average, whatever's static for you. How much does it cost you on average per item to make your product? This is important information. Do the math. What you also need to do, though, is you need to figure out the cost of everything. One of the biggest mistakes that people make when they're sorting out the material cost per item is they forget to include the little things. Cost of glue to glue things together. Well, oh, that's less than a penny. Okay, 1 cent for glue. That goes in your. So you're figuring out a piece of wood costs $1. 2 pieces of wood for $1, but they have to be glued together. Glue costs a penny. Okay, well, put that in a column to the side. Okay, $1. That's okay. $2. I don't want to count that penny. I'll put that penny to the side. Then I have to drill a hole in that. Well, my drill bits break at the rate of my drill bits cost me $1, and I can drill through 100 items before that bit breaks. That's a penny. Put it over there. See if you don't care about the pennies unless you realize that they're adding up. You have 2 items, they're a penny each. Penny worth of glue, a penny for the drill bit, because it's going to break after every 100 uses. Okay, that's nothing. You can ignore it if you want to. What if your product has a lot of moving parts, and by the end of the list, you've got like 30 or 40 things that all cost a penny? Well, now you've got 30 or 40 cents. That can matter. I've seen people on social media, and again, social media, everybody goes to social media when they have a problem. It's easier to find a complaint than a compliment on social media. So I've seen this a lot. People are coming in going, I'm not making any money. I can't. You should consider having a sale because I want to get more sales. How do I get more sales? Oh, consider having a sale. Oh, I can't do that. I'll lose money. It's because you forgot to count all those pennies and forgot to adjust your prices accordingly. Right? This matters. So those pennies matter, and those pennies matter, and you really need to double check and make sure that they're not adding up into a bigger number than you expect. Okay? So your materials cost per item matters. And you need to know what it is, and you need to know per item. And if you're into antiques, and this is where there's no one size fits all. If you're selling antiques, you're doing this for every single item. It doesn't always make sense. You just have to get the hang of it and go with your gut feeling. But you're not going to get the hang of it if you've never done it at least once. So at least once, go through the process and be sure that you understand your numbers. And like I said, bring along a friend to explain it to you like what's that thing? Explain it to me like I'm 5. Get the help that you need, and you do not, generally speaking, you won't even have to go running to an accountant at this stage. You need somebody who's going to explain it to you in plain English. Okay. Your materials cost per item, and this matters. What also matters is your packaging costs. People put their time and energy into creating their product and then forget to calculate how much it's costing to package it all up. Oh, I have to spend $100 on boxes. It's like, okay, well, how many boxes do you get? 50. Oh, well, so you're spending $2 per box to ship your item. Well, yeah, but that's the cost of doing business. It's like, that's a cost that needs to be taken into consideration because you need to figure out a final price for your item. And if you're not adding those costs in, so shipping costs, packaging costs, shipping and packaging are kind of together. Some people ship for free. If you're shipping for free, that matters. You need to keep track of how much it is costing you to put something in the mail. It matters. It's part of your production cost. Your production costs include every single cent that you're spending in order to get that product from the raw materials in your home to the finished good in the buyer's home. It all matters. So your packaging cost is a per item cost. And again, per item, figure out the incidentals. How much tape are you using? Oh my God, it says tape. Tape is only $3 a roll. Well, if you're going through a roll of tape for every 3 packages, you've got a fucking problem. Be sure that you understand where the money is. If you're only spending a penny, it's incidental. Did it add up? Didn't it add up? That goes on the incidental column. You're not even looking at that yet. But figure it out. The best way to figure out incidentals is open a packet. Okay, figuring out how much tape because generally speaking, after you get going, you're not going to go to the store and buy a single roll of packing tape. You're going to go to Costco and buy a 6-pack. That makes sense. It's good business sense, right? But you still need to know how much it costs. So what you're going to do is you're going to open a package of tape, get it ready to go. You're going to mark the date. Okay, as of this date, it took me this many days to go through my tape. I sold this many products in that time, on average. Because if it's something that you already know isn't very expensive, you just want to find that's your incidental column. Are these costs adding up? Keep it over there. Cost of a box, cost of packing peanuts, cost of whatever a lot of people, I do it. I wrap everything in a layer of tissue and put a nice little thank you sticker on it. That's fine. Some people go absolutely right to frickin' town with handmade thank you cards and a little gift, some stickers, some things. I've encountered people who spend more for their packaging than they do for the supplies to make the original product because they want it to look nice, which is awesome. It's awesome to make it look nice, but just don't forget that's money that you're taking away from yourself in order to, it depends. Certain products just aren't going to sell if they're not packaged well. And again, this is where one size does not fit all. Me, I'm selling a cloth. What I'm selling, I wrap it very, very simply because I want to keep my cost down, which keeps my buyers' cost down. And my buyers, they don't expect it. I mean, I'm sure a lot of them would appreciate it, but I think a lot of them are also understanding that this is how I keep my prices down. So packaging matters. If you're adding little perks and little things and little gifts and little swag in your stuff, Lux, a metal tin, a wooden box. If you're doing that sort of stuff, you need to know how much that's costing you because I have seen people losing money, can't figure out how, and it's because of how they package their products. And because they've just missed it. They just skipped it. Okay. Equipment cost. Now, equipment cost is, again, relative. If your thing is crocheting, the cost of a crochet needle, how long is it going to take you to break a crochet needle? A decade? It doesn't matter. Some equipment costs literally nothing, won't even find its way into your incidental pile. I sew. Okay, my thing is sewing. How much do I spend for a sewing needle, and about how long can I use a needle before it breaks? It's in the incidental pile at less than a penny. I get a lot of projects out of it and blah, 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 blah. But what if you're using, again, I mentioned a drill bit. Did I not mention the drill bit? I forget. Did I mention a drill bit? You're doing a project where you're using a $1 drill bit that's going to break after every 10 uses or every 3 uses. Sometimes the accessories that you use as your production equipment, you go through them quickly. I go through about a pair of scissors a year. Just because I have the self-sharpening, whatever. I've gone through so many pairs of scissors just because I'm constantly cutting at things. Rotary cutter blades, because I use a rotary cutter. The cost of, okay, let's assume that I'm really, really hard on my sewing machines and have to buy a new sewing machine every year. Now, I bought myself new sewing machines. My God, I think I've got like 4 now, 4. I don't know what I've got. It's crazy. But the thing is that if I'm buying a sewing machine because I have to have it for the business, then being aware of how much it's going to, like, okay, something happens and I need to go buy a new sewing machine because I have to. It's like, okay, well, my favorite sewing machine that I use for most of my stuff is about $800 for that machine. If I'm only selling 100 items, it's going to cost me $8 from each of those items in order to cover the cost of my equipment. If you're in a position where you are going through equipment, and equipment is relative, like I said, a crochet hook is equipment. A paintbrush is equipment. If you're doing a paintbrush, that's a great example. Because for some people, for me, my God, you use a paintbrush and you're shellacking your wooden product, and you can only get a certain amount of time out of a paintbrush before it's time to replace it. So if you're doing a process that is really hard on your paintbrushes and you're buying a new paintbrush and you're going through half a dozen paintbrushes a week, then you need to know, is it affecting your production costs? Are you spending enough on that product that you need to actually reconsider how you're pricing your products in order to take that into consideration? This is important. If it's in the penny column, leave it there. You don't care yet about that incidental column. That incidental column it lives there to handle the little teeny tiny things that don't matter, because you're only just checking to see, are they adding up into a bigger number than I expected? That's it. That's the only reason why that column is there. You can choose to ignore it. It's entirely up to you. It depends on what you're making and how many moving parts your stuff has. Okay, other costs per item. And again, this is relative. Is 90% of your business this, but you have special custom stuff that you can sometimes do. Do you have is there something about your business that doesn't fit the categories I've already mentioned? We'll sort out those costs. Take the time to look at that cost. Take the time to think about every single step that you do. Other costs per item, usually for most of us, that's going to be zero. If you've done it right, you've pretty much grabbed everything else as you go. But per item costs that are not part of our thinking. Outsourced labor cost every month. Do you have a helper? When I had Rose helping me, I took the time to be aware of the amount, what I paid her a certain amount of money, she did a certain amount of work. That's awesome. How much is it costing me to do that? If you're just having somebody, your job is to, I don't know, if your person is able, I just need you to do this, and it's going to cut 5,000 parts at the same time. That person's labor, you might be paying somebody $30 an hour for their labor, but because of what you do, it is such an extremely productive environment that it's actually in the negligible column. It's like, what if they're just babysitting a machine that can pump out 5,000 parts an hour? And there are people who do production stuff because they're doing it at home, they're doing it themselves, they're not just drop shipping other products, where that person's time, maybe you're just paying your kids to stuff envelopes for you and they get $5 a week for their allowance. That's negligible. Your kid packs 100, well, maybe it's not. Your kid packs 100 envelopes a week for you. You give them $5 a week as their allowance. So what's 5 divided by 500 divided? So that's 5 cents. You're giving them 5 cents each to stuff envelopes. Okay, it's in the negligible column as 5 cents each. What if this person is doing some really, really high-end stuff for you, and they do one part, that you're paying them $20 an hour, and they do one item per hour on a piece that you're expecting to sell for $40. Well, you've given them half your profit, half the money, and then you've still got your expenses. So this is important. So figure out, and again, average it out. When Rose was with me, we would like count up. She would just come over and do stuff, right? So we would just count up how much she did of everything and kind of guesstimate, and then just made ourselves aware. It's like, oh, okay, fine. Oh, good, this is working. And it's not like I don't want. It's not like I don't want to pay you, but it's like, if I need to adjust my prices in order to accommodate paying you while not going broke myself, I need to be aware of it. And you do. You need to be aware of it. And this is especially difficult for people who are hiring friends, relatives, people that they know as a part-time gig to help them out. It can feel weird. It can feel really weird. It felt really weird sitting down and working out those kind of numbers, but it's also really, really important to know the numbers, because if you don't, you can end up working purely for the privilege of paying somebody else. You don't want to be in that boat. Okay. Other costs per item. And this is where let's say that you're spending $100 a month on advertising, but you only sell 100 items a month. Well, that means on average, you're spending $1 per item to advertise it. That's part of your production. Okay, it's not part of your production costs, but it's part of your costs. Now, if you don't want to do, if you don't want to make the math super complicated, just add it as other costs. Advertising costs. What if you are spending money on I have what do they call? I have Etsy Plus. It's a premium account, and I spend about $15 a month on it. So $15 a month. If I'm selling 15 items, it's $1 a month. If I'm selling 1,000 items a month, it's in the incidental column. Which column it lands in often depends on how much of that item you're selling. Like I said, if you're spending $15 a month from Etsy offers a premium account that you don't need. I got the premium account just because it came with some listing credits and some other stuff that once you do the Canadian conversion, it's meant, okay, well, it's costing me nothing to get these credits. So it's kind of cost neutral for me. So I went ahead and did it, but you got to figure that out. So if you are spending $15 a month for a premium account or some other premium feature, and only selling 15 items a month, that's $1 an item. And again, I'm just going to repeat it. It's $1 an item if you're not selling a lot of items. If you're selling 150 items a month, it's 10 cents. If you're selling 1,500, it's a penny. Taking your advertising costs, your premium account fees, your Google AdSense, that's still advertising. If you are, let's go back to shipping. If you are hiring somebody, you have a helper, and that helper's job is to make the if that helper's job is to make the little bits of the little treats and stuff that you put in your packaging to make your customer happy, then that's another cost per item. You can figure it all out that way. Anyway, and like I said, no two people's, it is not one size fits all. That is why it's so difficult to find. People have calculators out there. I have a clunky calculator of my own that I use, but it only really works for me because you can't customize these things, and no two shops are the same. So all of your other fees and stuff that you pay before you even get to your fees matters, because the money that you're using to pay for this is all coming out of the profits that you make off of your product. So this is important to know exactly how much, exactly to the penny, no, not to the penny, but exactly how much it's costing you to make that product. And to figure out which expenses are noticeable, are big, and which expenses are incidental. And again, the incidental column, you're just watching it. It's just that whole, well, it doesn't really matter unless that number, what if by the time you're done, you've got 100 items on there totaling $4 or $5? It's not likely to happen. It's not likely to happen, but it's information that you need, because the last thing you want to do is to wake up one day and go, oh, I'm getting blindsided here with all this shit. And that is the inability to create a profit for yourself is what drives a lot of people out of Etsy. And the reason why this happens is because they didn't do the math. Okay, now we've got all of this stuff doing. Now we have to move on to the fees. I'm going to do Etsy fees because that's where I do all my business. Some platforms have a monthly fee, which is again going to be something that if you have a monthly fee, do the math. How much per item is it costing you to do this? Because this is the best way to, you have to get these fees from your profits. So if you don't know what your cost per item is, how can you set the correct fee? Right? You can't set the correct fee if you don't know per item what these fees are costing you. So listing fee per item. Etsy charges a 20-cent listing fee every item that you put up. So if you put up 6 of something, it'll charge you 20 cents. And then once that one sells, the next one, a 20-cent fee will apply. And then it treats it like a vending machine and doesn't charge the fee until you're at the front of the line. So if you have 100 of something and list it, you're going to see a 20-cent fee. But what you're also going to see is 20 cents again and again and again each time the next one in line moves to the front. So 20 cents per item to list your item. Now, if you're selling stickers for $1, you're losing 20 cents. That's 20% of your business right there. This is why it's not very advisable to sell stickers or other $1 items on Etsy. I strongly advise against it unless you're going to put them together in packs. If you're going to sell a sticker for $1, put it together in a pack of 10, because a 10 pack has a 20-cent listing fee. A single sticker, each individual single sticker has a 20 cent each, and that's $1, or that's $2. Okay, 20 cents per item. There are other platforms that also charge a per item listing fees. I'm not going to get into that because I only work with Etsy anyway. That's something to be aware of, especially if you're selling a low dollar item. Transaction fees. Etsy charges 6.5%. This is actually a decent fee. It's one of the lower fees. If you look at a chart showing the fee structures of all the different platforms, Etsy is one of the lower ones. Etsy is one of the lower ones, and yet it is the only bigger platform that I know of is Amazon. That I know of. I'm not stating facts. I'm saying this. If there is a bigger online selling platform, I don't know. I think Alibaba is bigger, but that is very much, that is not necessarily international the way Etsy is. Okay, so 6.5% transaction fees. Any monthly platform fees, if you haven't already taken them into consideration, now is the time to do it. Credit card fees. This is important. This is vitally important no matter what platform you're on. I've watched people go, I'm leaving Etsy because of their fees. And it's like, well, once you remove the credit card fees from the equation, it's 6.5%. Amazon, I believe, is charging 12%. So credit card fees are on average 25 cents. Okay, every time I get to the credit card fees, my camera wants to stop. Okay. Credit card fees are 25-cent listing fee. Now that's US. If you are outside of the US, you will pay according to the exchange rate in your country. So for some of you it may be lower and some of you it may be higher. For us it's 32 cents up here in Canada. Plus 3.5%. Now, 3.5% is the average relative to which credit card the customer is using. Now, it's very rare to see anything other than 3.5%. I believe it's Diners Club. I don't quote me on this. There are a couple of credit cards that are a little bit higher. There's even a couple of credit cards that are a little bit lower, but they're not. Visa and MasterCard are the two big ones. That's what they charge. They charge 25 cents plus 3.5% on the cost of the product. So if you charge $10 for your product, they're going to take 25 cents plus 3.5%, which is 35 cents. So they're going to take 60 cents. So now you've got 60 cents plus the 20-cent listing fee. Now you're at 80 cents. Now you're at almost a buck. Plus Etsy's 6.5%. So on average, I like to say that it's 10% because that's what works for me. In reality, if you're selling a low price item, if your item is low price, then you really need to calculate 6.5% plus 20 cents plus 25 cents. Now, the 25 cents is per transaction. So if somebody if you are on average selling 6 items per transaction, then you can divide that 25 cents by 6 because it's per transaction. Etsy's fee is per item. Credit card fee is per transaction. This matters. So for me, I say on average I pay 10%, and I calculate using that number. But you need to go through the math and make sure that you're doing it. If you sell stickers for $1, you are spending 25 cents on the transaction. Let's assume that the average person buys 5 stickers. Okay, so you are 20-cent listing fee per sticker. That's $1. So you sell your stickers for $1. You've sold 5. You've got $5 profit. 20-cent listing fee. You've now lost $1. 25 cents for the credit card fee. So you've lost $1.25. So now you have $3.75 left, on which, now for Etsy it's 9.5%, 9.5, 3.5, 35. So now you're charging about 30. Now it's an extra 31 cents. So you're losing about $1.50 on the entire transaction. So you're bringing yourself down. You've got about $3.50 in your pocket, and that, go back to column 1. What was your cost to produce, package, and ship that sticker? If you are producing a sticker at 50 cents a sticker, so now you're $3.50, it's down to $3. $1 for the stamp, you're down to $2. Is my math right? I'm just doing this off the top of my head. You've added a bonus sticker. And it's costing you, how much did I say per sticker? You've lost that much money. So now you're down to $2. Let me see. So your $5 pack of stickers is now earning you about $2. And any other prices, any other prices like advertise. If your advertising costs work out so that you're spending $1 for advertising and premium fees and all this shit, you're now only earning $1. You've put a lot of work into earning $1. And now your customer calls you and says, something happened and my stickers showed up damaged. I would like a refund, please. Right? Because that happens. You've got no buffer, no nothing, and you're making nothing. And what if you're spending hours designing your sticker, hours marketing your product, hours doing this, hours doing that? What if on average you do the math and realize that you're spending an hour per sticker just to get them sold? Then you've made $1 an hour. Now that's an extreme case, but unfortunately I've seen the extreme cases happen. It's like, oh, I'm really doing this, I need to make this. It's like, you're not making that much. Though you're working an 80-hour week to make $1 an hour. It's like, and people are, I make $100 a week doing this, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well, how much time do you spend on this? Oh, but I spend 80 to 100. It's like, you're not making any money. You're not. You would do better getting a part-time job at McDonald's. And this is why you need to know the math. Because the brutal reality is that for some of you, it's just the truth. For some of you, you will be more profitable in your world to just simply go get a side gig part-time job than to continue creating whatever it is that you have been creating. And if you're doing it because you love doing it, keep doing it. Keep doing it. But if you are doing it because you have monetary goals, then you're going to have to make a difficult decision. Either reprice your product, rethink your supplies, rethink different ways to bring your costs down, and if those things don't work, rethink just doing this at all. Some people will just switch products until they find something that works. There's nothing wrong with that. But there are a lot of people who come into Etsy with unrealistic expectations, don't understand the math, and price themselves out of a job, out of a side gig, out of whatever it is that they're trying to do. Okay. I don't want to end on a glum note, and that's fine. So now you have to work your math backwards. It's like, okay, so now you've figured out how much it's costing you to do this thing. Have you already been selling it? Is your price high enough? Okay. Now, your next step, different kind of math. How much time are you spending working on your product? And this is, again, back to figuring out your hourly wage, which I just mentioned in passing. So what you want to know is how much, now that I know exactly how much it's costing me to put my item in a shop, how much am I making? If you're only making $1, okay, you're selling stickers and you just did the math and realized that you're only making $1 per order, but you sell 5,000 orders a month. You don't have a lot to worry about. You don't. Maybe you'd be better off raising your prices by a few cents to create a buffer for yourself. But if you've just realized that you are making $1 per sale and if you're only making $1 per sale, but it's taking you 40 hours a week to make and sell your product, you need to rethink a lot of things. That doesn't mean throw your hands up and quit. It just means rethink your stuff. Okay, so what is your preferred hourly income? Keep that number in your pocket, right? Because what you want to know is how many of these, what is my profit after everything's said and done? So if I'm calculating my costs and I haven't started selling the item yet, then I can go, oh, it's costing me, and this is again about your time required. Estimate your monthly administrative time, shipping, marketing in hours. Approximately how much time per month are you spending on your non-working activities? And make sure that you're separating working activities with activities that you're already doing anyway. I'm already on social media anyway. I don't count that time. I do not count my social media time as work time because I'm just online chatting with people that I already know. I'm already part of a community. I'm just being active. And yes, I will be chat, la, la, la. I'll be, somebody will leave a comment on a video asking me something about my shop because my wife sometimes mentions my stuff. And I'll respond to them. I don't count that. I sit there doing social media first thing in the morning while I'm having my coffee. I'm not on Twitter. I'm not on Instagram. I'm not on Pinterest. I was for a while, and I found that it was like, I don't even like this. I don't like this. It's too much work. I'm not interested. I just stopped doing it. So now I stopped counting that as work time. It's not work time. I mean, I'm in my wife's Facebook group. And if I put something in the shop that's particularly interesting, I'll say, hey guys, I just put some of this up. I know people have been asking for it or whatever. But I'm also in there chatting, doing whatever. I am not going to call my community work. You may have a different take. You may. So whether or not you have to decide for yourself what is considered work. I also don't count my shopping time as work. I'm an extrovert doing an introvert's job. It's an opportunity to get out of the house, and I've been shopping at some of these stores for years now, so I get to check them. Oh, how you guys doing? I get to socialize a little, chit chat a little. I don't count a lot of that as work. I count my time shipping as, I don't even count that anymore. I can't be bothered because for me, I don't care because I'm semi-retired. I'm not trying to fit in time for this around a day job. I don't have those considerations, so I don't have to be concerned. So your estimated admin, shipping, marketing, social media. Be very clear with yourself and honest with yourself what is actually work and what is just you doing what you're already doing anyway. What matters, what doesn't matter, and how much time are you spending on the work side of that. Okay. I'm over explaining it because a lot of people, as soon as I have a business now, so the fact that I'm even talking to you as work, I'm marking that as my time. And everybody has their own way of looking at it. One size does not fit all, right? And how much time does it take you to create each item? So if you have something that you do and on average it takes you 1 hour to create it, then you are 1 hour. Your estimated time is 1 hour. 1 hour per item, it's already at 1 hour. Say it takes you 5 minutes. So you can make 5 minutes, that's 20 an hour. So if you want to pay yourself $20 an hour, then you need to just divide that. So $1 per 5 minute block. So it costs me $1 of my time to make an item. This is a very roundabout way of explaining it, but costing out your time is very relative to your experience. Like I said, if you're a hobbyist and if you're crochet is always my best example because that's what my grandmother did. My grandmother crocheted tons and tons and tons and tons of stuff and was just always making something. And then once she finished, this was years and years and years ago, before the internet even, once she was done with something, she would find somebody to give it to. So I always use crochet as my go-to example. I'm not trying to pick on crocheters. It's kind of the opposite. Okay, so estimating your time is very, very relative to your personal experience, but take the time to pay attention to how much time you're spending on stuff every day and how much of that time you feel you should be compensated for. Because if you don't care, then you may not even bother with this calculation. You might be going, well, you know what, I'm getting $5 an item and that's fine for me. Okay, so just when I'm in the final stretch, I end up with a coughing fit. Anyway, okay. So estimating your time is very, very much relative to how much you want to be making, how you want that to affect your pricing or not affect your pricing. It's very, very important to know. It's very important to know exactly how much you're making on a per hour basis, based on either how much you are making because you have a current product or how much you hope to be making because you're trying to sort out a fair price for both you and your customer. Because the last thing you want to do is find out that you're only making like $1 an hour. I've already told the story of 11-cent an hour girl, and t-shirt guy who was losing money. The last thing you want to do is find out that everything else was fine, but there was something wrong with your math, and now you don't have a viable business. Because, I mean, let's be honest. Let's be brutally, brutally honest. If I all of a sudden look at my numbers and go, oh my God, I'm losing money. I'm not making nearly enough money. There's something wrong with what I'm doing in how I'm paying myself. Then I go in and I go, okay, I have to fix this because I'm losing money. If you're losing money, you have to fix it. You don't have a choice here, okay? Even though I already have a customer base, even though I already have, I feel like I've got a good thing going. I feel like I've got good stable sales. If I were to suddenly double or triple my prices to make up for the fact that I price my things improperly from the get-go, I'm going to lose customers. It's just a fact of life. You know, oh, sorry, Peggy, no hard feelings, but I can't afford that anymore. Because friendship and business are not the same thing. They really aren't. And it's like, nobody owes me their business. Okay, so my camera just stopped. I mean, I just stopped. I had a coughing fit. This is dry in here. It's no big deal. So figuring out how much you are making per hour is really, 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 really important, especially if you have financial goals. If you have specific financial goals in mind, then knowing where your money is, where your income is at, is really important. You would not, if I were offering you a job to come and be my helper, you wouldn't take the job without first finding out how much I'm paying you. Well, find out how much you're paying yourself. That's it in a nutshell. And it's not doom and gloom if you find out that you're doing it badly. You can, I want to pay myself $20 an hour. So maybe that one product, don't forget, you've already priced out all your products, okay? You've already priced out all your products, and ideally you've done it per product. So you might go, well, I want to be making 20 bucks an hour, and this one product, I'm only making $1 an hour when I make this product. Maybe I better stop making this product and start making more of the other one that is profitable. That can be all you need to do. Oh, I'm getting all of my materials from Michaels, and the number of people who are getting their materials from Michaels is astonishing. Michaels is a retailer. Find a wholesaler if you can. If you can find somebody who's willing to give you bulk pricing, take it. And be aware that you may be stuck with retail pricing initially while you get started until you build up enough volume of business that you can afford to start stocking stuff. I never started stocking stuff until like, oh God, last year and a half. I would have to really, really stretch to figure it out. But like after I reached a certain point, it was like, wait a second. Because I was contemplating a price. I was literally contemplating a price increase. I was like, I'm going to have to start raising my prices. I'm either going to have to raise my prices or find a way to bring my costs down. And it's like, took a look, did the math, always do the math, did the math and went, well, wait a second. If I go here, I can access their bulk pricing because I'm going through so much because I knew where my numbers were at and doing this, you will know where your sales are at. You will know where your sales are at because obviously you have to, if you don't know where your sales are at, you can't do this math to begin with. Well, you can do this math before you even sell a single product. If you already have a business and you're already working things out, keeping track of the math as you go, do a little check-in and redo your math every once or twice a year. I did the math and realized I'm now selling enough stuff that I can go here and get some bulk pricing on some of my stuff, brought my costs down, didn't have to raise my prices, and still kept making the same money I was making before. That's another reason why you want to know your math, kids. Anyway, you can have aggressive goals, you can have moderate or modest goals. And the math itself is a tedious topic, especially considering that I cannot just hold up a sheet and go, do that, and you'll be fine. If you are doing exactly one item and only one item, your math is really simple. I currently have, I think it's 14 different things that I'm making. And like I said, it's just me. And I'm making 14 different things. If you're doing a different type of product, you could have, like there's people that have like hundreds of listings and, there are people that have hundreds of things that they're making. Because there's ways to do Etsy where you make the product and then sell it, or you sell the product and then make it. And if you're doing it that way, you can have a much bigger variety of stuff because you're just simply not making it until it's been sold. So the more stuff you're selling, the more difficult it is to do the math. But you can still get an average. You can still work through your averages by going, I have an average of this many. I sell on average 100 things a month and make $1,000. So when I do the math, I am on average selling my items for $10 each. You can work with that math. You can still go back and do your individual production cost per item, and then you can sort out your income by per average and go back and forth. And again, if the math is scary, for a lot of people it is, get a friend, find somebody, talk to somebody. I mean, my God, I'll tell you right now, if you are even remotely mathematically inclined, you can make money offering this as a service to sort out profit and loss margins. I've been doing this myself for forever and ever and ever. My son, who is actually an analyst, which is like math, lots and lots of math, came over and went, oh, okay, so I would love to take a look at your numbers because he just, he does that. And I'm like, sure, okay. I said, I've got lots of numbers, but, they're all, Etsy only provides this in this format, and you have to reform. He's like, that's okay. And in 10 minutes, he showed me some information that I wasn't even aware of. Finding if you are that person, if you are that math geek in your social circle, you can be making some money helping people through this. But anyway, so it'll help you sort out what items are profitable, what items are not profitable. There may be items that you just simply shouldn't be selling because you're not making enough money to meet your financial goals. And don't forget, your financial goals can vary. There's people losing money on every transaction. Not losing money, but not getting their money back. If I crochet a blanket and it cost me $100 for the materials. I sell it on Etsy, and after my fees, I get $80 back. But all I want to do is crochet, and I'm not really in it for the money. I've got $80 towards my next set of materials, $20 out of my pocket, and I can go on to the next project, and my hobby is now way less expensive for me. So again, one size does not fit all for the math, which is unfortunately why there will never really be a comprehensive workbook that you can just plug in your numbers, click a button, and get your answers. But you can do it yourself. It is time. It takes time. You set aside an afternoon for it so that you've got time to go, okay, I'm getting frustrated. I'm going to get up and go get a cup of tea, relax. I'm going to call a friend. I'm going to do whatever. Take some time. Don't rush through these numbers. Don't rush. Don't kill yourself over this. But 100% be aware of where your numbers are, what's going on. And for some of you, it's a super simple process. Like I said, if you're just crocheting a blanket and throwing it on Etsy until it sells and don't care if you profit or not because you're just looking for, as long as you're not losing money, it's like, oh, well, by the time I paid for my packaging, my shipping, and my Etsy fees, I lost money. It's like, then you know you're making a mistake, right? But anyway, it's easier than it sounds. I hope this was helpful in helping you sort out the generics of how you're going to do your own math. You do have to do your own math. That's part of the problem. But once you sit down and do it for the first time and get numbers that you understand, because once you start working with your numbers, you will get information that you will understand, and it will help you set better prices, make better decisions. Like I said, you may decide you have to raise your prices. You may decide that what if people are complaining that your products are too expensive, and you do the math and realize that you can cut your prices in half and actually make more sales equals more money, right? So it's like, oh, I get 10 sales a week, but I get 10 sales a week, but 20 messages from friends and family that my prices are too high, and if I find a way to cut my prices, I'll get 40 sales, 50 sales. So that's one piece. The other piece is just to make sure that you're not working for a loss or working for way less than you think you are. It's a really easy mistake to make, by the way. Just so that it's said, don't beat yourself up if you're making this mistake. Most people on Etsy are working this as a side. They start out as a side gig in addition to their regular daily/weekly income. So when you're putting your Etsy money in this, you go, okay, my Etsy money is in, oh, and my paycheck is in, and you go spend it. It can be really difficult to notice that you're making. It can be really difficult to notice these things, even if you are good at math. It can be difficult to notice where the money is coming and going if you already have other income streams coming in at the same time. Hence why it's more important to do the math, especially if your overall long-term goal is to be living off of the Etsy income and giving up the other income that you already have. Like maybe you're just working part-time at a job that you really, really hate, and if the Etsy can take off, you can quit that job, stick with Etsy, and then have more of everything. Find out what's going on. You'll also get some information on how much time you're actually spending working on your shop. Some people are really with the admin, the shipping, the marketing, the creation time. Some people are really surprised themselves at how many hours they're actually working because they don't think about it that way. I know how many hours I'm working. I know which hours matter to me. I know which hours don't, and I can make adult decisions. But that's the second one. And I think I'm pretty much done here on this. There's not really a whole lot else that I can provide. Like again, sort out your price per item. Sort out your costs per item, your production costs. Sort out your full fee structure. That is not just sort out every cent that you're spending that isn't being spent on the actual product, marketing, premium accounts, transaction fees, listing fees, credit card fees, anything else that you're doing that's a fee. If you're renting space. Most people work from home, but there's people that just, I'm going to do this and go on Etsy, so I'm going to rent space somewhere. If you're renting that space, know about per item. So figure all that out. Figure out your per item costs on each individual item. Figure out your overall costs on your activity as a whole. Figure out your time. Figure out how much you're paying yourself. If you're already paying yourself, figure out if that price is too high, too low, just right. Make your adjustments as necessary. And don't forget, when you're a new shop, it's easier to make these adjustments and make these mistakes when you're new because you're still getting started, than it is that once you're older, established. If I were to have screwed up when my shop was a month old and went, oh my God, my prices are too low, I could double them and nobody would have cared. If something happens now, 4 years in, and I go, oh my God, I'm not charging enough, and I double my prices, I will lose. I might as well. I'm screwed. I'm screwed. I've got a customer base who's used to a certain price, and I'm going to fuck with that. That's fucking with your business. It's fucking with your livelihood. So the best time to do it is when you're relatively new, when your business can survive mistakes. It's the best way to put it. Your business can survive almost any mistake, but your choices become more limited depending on how established the business is and how big the mistake is. Anyway, I'm done. I'm going to go have my coffee and have a break, and then I'm going to get to work because I have my business to run, and I will see you guys on the next one. I'm going to get going. Like, subscribe, ring the bell. Comment below. If you have any questions about how your math is working for your business, I will answer to the best of my ability. If I can't answer, I'll be honest and let you know. So in the meantime, thanks for hanging out with me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.